I wanted to make this quick video for people to understand a little bit about how I think that the mind works. So in your mind, you have a center for active conscious thought. Here it is. This is sort of like your capital city, okay? This is like you, okay? And if I want you to think this kind of an analogy of like you're almost like a merchant, okay? And so this center of your brain, this isn't exactly how it works, but this is, I think, helpful. This center of your brain, what you consciously decide to think about or to not think about, is you. Okay, so I'm going to put a little smiley face here for you. There you are. Okay, so now you have the ability to choose what your brain will entertain. Now, sometimes randomly some thought will pop in, but you have the choice. Am I going to entertain that thought, or am I going to push that thought out? So let's say up here is a thought. Let's say this is a very negative thought. So I'm going to make this thought dark gray. This is a grisly negative thought, okay? And your brain has a little connection there, okay? I'll just draw it as a little road. Okay, there's a little connection. And then over here is a different thought, okay? So this thought is about something that is positive and makes you happy. And this thought, maybe it doesn't even make you happy. It's just something that's positive. It's not negative. I'll make that green. Okay, so your brain has you have the ability to choose which of these two thoughts you will entertain. Now you think of this kind of like this being your capital city over here with a smiley face, and then you choosing to have trade with one of these cities. Now the more that you entertain these thoughts, it's almost like trading more with them, okay? So if you trade more with this city, then the road becomes bigger and it gets easier to travel down. When it's easier to travel down, more trade happens, the city flourishes, it gets bigger, okay? And that sort of negativity in your life get bigger. But if you instead choose to think about this more, then the road will get bigger, and as the road gets bigger, your brain will have an easier time going there, and this one will get bigger, okay? So you have the choice as this little merchant here, okay? You have the choice which of these cities you're going to trade with, and whatever one you trade with is going to get bigger, and it's going to get wealthier. The road is going to get stronger and bigger and deeper, and it'll be easier to trade with them. So some people have lots of really negative thoughts that keep popping up in their head a lot. And the more that they choose to entertain these thoughts, the bigger these thoughts get, and the deeper and bigger the road gets, and the deeper and bigger the road gets, the easier these thoughts come to them, and this city becomes very, very large. But I really, really, really encourage you and everyone to be very careful about the cities that you trade with or the thoughts that you have. Anytime you think a thought that is negative or it's just not helpful for your life, I encourage you to try to break off that thought as quickly as you possibly can. The more that you do not trade with these negative cities, the more this road will eventually become overgrown, and it'll get harder for your merchant to travel there and to do trade. Get overgrown, see how it's kind of growing? And eventually the wealth of this city will deteriorate, and it will not become such an active part of your brain. However, on the flip side, the more that you do trade with good, productive thoughts, the more this part of your brain will grow, and the more this city will flourish, and eventually it'll become so easy and so good, rewarding to do business here, that your brain will go there quickly, automatically, on its own. But it requires a lot of self-control, that every time one of these thoughts come in your head, that you have to push it out. Now, I'd like to share something with you about myself. So when I was younger, I had some negative thoughts about myself. I thought that, sorry, there's someone doing yard work outside. I thought that people didn't like me, and that people didn't want me around, and that I just a lot of really negative things like that, okay? And these thoughts popped in my head constantly, and this road toward negativity and things that were not positive became very strong. And one day, when I was a teenager, I realized this was going on, and that this city had become a very big city, and the city down here had become very small. And I didn't want to be that way. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that I felt. I didn't like the way that I viewed myself. And so I started actively establishing, I wrote out the new thought patterns that I wanted to have. I literally wrote them down. I said them out loud, the way that I wanted to think about myself. And I actively thought about ways that I could support this thought pattern, the positive thought pattern, that I'm a good person and people should like me, and other positive things about myself. Now, whatever it is that you would like to think or believe or have in your life, I encourage you to write it out, to define it, to say it out loud, and then actively pursue thoughts and activities that support that thought pattern. Because really, once in a while, having these kinds of thoughts, it happens. It'll pop in there. But if you will actively seek to eliminate this, it will get harder and harder throughout your life. I'm a witness to that. The more years that have passed, this road is mostly overgrown now, and rarely does my brain even naturally go there at all. It just doesn't happen very much. It's pretty much, the city is pretty much shriveled. It's sort of like a ruined city with little tiny remains of what used to be a thought. I don't think that way about myself anymore, almost ever. And on the other hand, this city, this good city down here, has become my natural thought process. But I have to tell you, when I was a teenager, it was almost the other way around completely. It was through lots and lots of mental effort and carefully conditioning my thoughts and distracting myself from these kinds of thoughts and choosing to think about these kind of thoughts down here is what allowed me to be able to have this be now it's my habitual thought process. This city right here is just what I think about, okay? And there are other things in my life I've done this with as well, other areas of self-control, thoughts that are not helpful to me. And it's really, really, really been a good thing in my life to think this way. And I encourage you to really try and do the best you can to, even though naturally your brain may go up here to these nasty thoughts, every time it pops up there. I remember having those thoughts pop in my head over and over and over and over again. And sometimes I had to literally sing songs, for me, I'm a very religious person, so I would pray. And I would pray and I'd pray and I'd pray. And sometimes I would pray for hours for help to not think about these negative thoughts. Those are very, very discouraging for me at a young age. But through a lot of time and effort, it's not a problem anymore at all. Don't even have to work at it anymore. I would say work at it at all. Once in a while, but it's just more like maintenance, So, good luck to you, and I hope this helps.